Good to see you. Hello and welcome everybody to this month's forum. Let me start with introducing my team. First, Evan, who's in charge of the logistics. Evan, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, good evening for everyone in the US. It's so nice to see everyone, so many new faces, and we're so glad you're here. If you have any issues with the tech, you're welcome to put a message in the chat to me or to everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Evan. Well, Ernie doesn't need any introduction. She talked to everybody and just make everything works for the forum. Ernie, would you like to say a few words?
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to announce this is probably the very largest participation that we've had. This is marks 3 years of doing these monthly instructor forums. So a very special welcome to everyone, especially the first timers. Put your questions and comments into the chat box at the end of your, at the bottom of your screen, please, and enjoy the session.
Thank you, Ernie. And Pat Lawson. Pat is the chair of the education committee with the Tai Chi for Health Institute. She's also helped me to run the workshops in the USA. Pat, would you like to say a few words?
Hello, and thank you. I'm so happy to be a part of it. I'm so happy to share thoughts and ideas with you tonight. And I'm here in Florida, but I've lived and traveled in many other parts of the United States. So I hope to meet you all in person soon. And meanwhile, we'll enjoy this evening.
Thank you, Pat. So today we also have Hong, and Pat and myself, three of us are going to present. So I'll introduce them again later. But I'm going to just tell you how happy I am, and we are the presenters, that there's so many of you interested in this, because Tai Chi is, of course, amazing, almost magical, but the magical Tai Chi is the mind component. It's a mind-body exercise, and that means we need to think about it, understand principles. Otherwise, if we just move our body, it's still a good exercise. It involves all the joints. But without the mind, a mindless exercise is not as magical, not as great to us as a whole as including the mind. And that's where the principle comes from. Cheng Fu's 10 essential points is regarded by most or many Tai Chi people as the guiding principle of the mind-related part of Tai Chi, and as well as the body part, but how the mind integrates with the body. So those principles make Tai Chi, make it magical. So that's why I'm so happy you are here, because you're really interested in Tai Chi. And remember, we were sending a recording and shared it with as many people as possible, so more people who does Tai Chi get to be interested and understand the principle more. And we got 2 more sessions. It's also Pat and Hong, 2 of the most experienced, great Tai Chi practitioners I know, who's going to present with me the next 2 months. So I think it's important to know a little bit about the history of Tai Chi, that who is Yang Cheng Fu? Well, most of you probably know, but I'm going to briefly talk about Tai Chi started from the Chen's village. And the village in those days are very, very secretive. They don't teach anybody outside the village. And in fact, they don't even teach their daughters, because imagine everybody in that town are Cheng. They all have the same surname, Cheng. But the girls have to marry a non-Cheng outside the village. Otherwise, they sort of related. And so if the girls marry outside the village, they might take this precious art of Tai Chi elsewhere, and so they don't teach the girls. If your daughter-in-law and if you're really, really talented, they make an occasional exception to teach the talented ladies. Nowadays, some men think Tai Chi is just for ladies. Of course, Tai Chi is for anybody, but you have to be extremely talented and exceptional to be taught. So Mr. Yang is not a Cheng. How did he got to Cheng's village and learn Tai Chi? He was supposedly, reportedly, to be a rich man. His parents died, he got lots of money, and instead of buying fast cars, well, there's no cars those days, spending it in other things, he loved martial arts. And one day he met a Chinese guy, and he was just so impressed with, incredible, he looked like nothing, and then he just get thrown away. So he will really want to learn that. And of course, he's not a Cheng, and he's not a woman. He can't marry one of the boys. So he pretended to be a servant, and then he was there. They accept him as a house servant, and he get up at night to look at through the crack of the wall to learn that Tai Chi. Now, it might not sound like a big deal for people like us, especially Westerners. That so what? I mean, I can learn anything from Dr. Lam or whoever on the internet. But in Mr. Yang's time, what he did is a crime that can be punished without going to court or anything. The village people can kill him, and they do that sometimes to people who stole their secret. However, the head of the village liked Mr. Yang so much because he's become so good at it that he accepted him as the first non-Cheng student. And one of the missions he given to Mr. Yang is to promote the name of Tai Chi. So he traveled around China. Eventually, he became the teacher of the imperial court. So he was like brought Tai Chi to the world, really. And his grandson is Yang Cheng Fu. So you can see Yang Cheng Fu is actually credited and often been called the modern father of Tai Chi, or father of modern Tai Chi. He's the one who teach many people, and he kind of responsible to bring Tai Chi to us. So Yang Cheng Fu written this book. It's one of the rare original copies. And if you ever heard Jiang Kai said, he was the president of China, and for a Tai Chi person to have the president write on your book is something. And all these are very famous people, but the one that I really impressed is this guy who is the top academic of China. He was the head of university, the most famous university, and so on. But I just want to show you, this is a picture of his father. This is Yang Cheng Fu himself, right here. And his son, his eldest son, is called Yang Zhou Zhong. He's the one who brought the copy and print this copy, the first lot of copy, and sell it to his students and people who want to buy it. And one of his closest students is my late father-in-law, who learned from Yang Zhou Zhong. So I get to hear stories about them, and this is the book. In this book, he didn't quite mention 10 essential points like 1, 2, 3, but he mentioned it. And basically somebody write it from what he says later. So the points are just really clear, and however, there are different interpretations. So I think it's really good for us to understand, to talk about it, to share our idea, so that help us to expand our Tai Chi, to make it a really fun and most intriguing mind body exercise. So of the 10 essential points, the number one point, I'm going to introduce Pat to talk about that. Pat, you already met, who I met. She is the first USA Tai Chi martial art person I met in USA. When I first came to USA, Pat organized a workshop for me. We met before the workshops. I won't tell you the long story, but Pat has such an incredible history in Tai Chi and martial arts and deep understanding of the arts. And as I said before, she's the chair of the education committee of the Institute and a great friend who have deep understanding of Tai Chi. So, Pat.
Thank you so much, Paul. That was very generous because I'll tell the inside story now. I was going to mention it later in my talk, but that I came to Tai Chi after I was already diagnosed with arthritis of the spine. And when I met Dr. Lam, I had just 2 weeks prior been in a collision where my car was totaled, and we had this appointment set up for about 6 weeks. And I was going to cancel it because I was afraid I couldn't drive. I had a neck brace on and I couldn't straighten up. And I came out of the car like this to meet Dr. Lam. So he's been very kind and generous about that. But he didn't know me and didn't know that I wasn't usually like that. I did have arthritis of the spine, and I found how much the Tai Chi for Arthritis program helped me, and I was completely sold on it. However, I've always struggled with upright posture. That was what I've worked on from the very beginning. So when Dr. Lam asked me if I'd like to talk about this first principle, upright posture, head as if suspended from above, I thought, I don't really know anything about that. I'm still working on it, but I'll share with you my thoughts and my experience with it. And see if it sparks some new insight or thoughts on your part, because it's by sharing all of this that we help each other. Head as if suspended from above is so important to how we move and how we feel while doing Tai Chi. And if you've had any trainings with me, you know I always come back to feeling it and sensing it. The word suspended itself, the translation, of course, it was translated from the Chinese, but the translator chose that word carefully, suspended from above. It implies a passiveness, a passivity. The thing being suspended doesn't have to do anything or control it. It simply is. It simply exists suspended. And there's a lightness in that. There's a freedom in just letting the natural shape take over, in letting us connect to something above and then hang on our frame. If you think about a lead weight like carpenters use, or fishermen with a weight on a line, or even a string of beads, if you think about a string of beads and I want to straighten it out, I could start at the bottom and go straight, let me straighten it out, let me straighten it out, straighten out. But it's could easily come out slanted. It could easily, come out a little bit off or askew. And that was a lot of effort to go bead by bead from the bottom up. But if I think of just suspending a string of beads, it's going to find its natural alignment. It's going to fall in and be vertical because it's just suspended from the one point, and the natural principles will take over.
When I first met Hong, I was so impressed with his academic achievements. China is a huge place. There's billions of people. And the most famous university is called Tsinghua University. And to be studying there is, by the way, that most famous academic was the head of that University, Tsinghua University. And Hong studied there, not about Tai Chi, but about literature. And I always admire people who have such great depth of Chinese literature. It's just so rich. But wait until I see Hong's Tai Chi, it's just wonderful and beautiful. I'm sure many of you have seen it. So I look forward to hear Hong's talk on the number 3. I'm going to skip one and I'm going to talk about number 2 principle. So Hong's going to talk about number 3. Please welcome Hong.
Hello, everybody. It's really nice to be here to see everybody, the old friends and the new friends, because I did not do a lot in TCHI for the last 4 years and just focused on my own study. But today, Dr. Lam invited me to talk about one of the points called losing waist. And losing waist, by Chinese words, waist, translated to English, is very easy to understand because that is in our middle area, like our belt to tie to our body. But in Tai Chi terms, there are always different, profound, sophisticated meaning behind the translation. First, I would like to state some important Tai Chi people, what they think of losing weight. In the history, there was an old saying, without losing waist, qi or energy cannot flow smoothly between our upper body and lower body. Zhang Sanfeng, if Dr. Lam said Yang Zhou Zhong is the modern Tai Chi, the father of modern Tai Chi, Zhang Sanfeng in China was named the tradition father of the Tai Chi. He, in his Bible-like article called Tai Chi Quan Xing, he said, anything if not right when we do Tai Chi, we don't feel right, then we need to check our waist and legs. Of course, Chen style also for Fajin without losing waist, it can hardly achieve. Thank you.
Thank you. That's amazing. Now, for those who enjoy the complexity or those who didn't quite get it, remember you're going to get a recording of this. And I also want to tell you, I like to be like you, to really enjoy it and be sort of surprised. So I have no idea what Pat's going to present or what Hong is going to present. And so happens Hong present this at the end. That's actually what I'm going to get you to do with me as well. So that's totally coincidental. But what it shows is that the 10 essential points, the principles, are interrelated. So in a way, it's highlight the body and mind is integrated. However, to learn things, if you take one bit at a time and then master that, and then you move on to other things, then you can feel efficacy. That's research by huge research on efficacy. If you split tasks into a little bit and you master that, then you feel good that you can learn more and master more. But if you want to take all the points and do everything at once, it's overwhelming and you ended up not quite doing it. So that's why it's important, it's useful to just focus, work on one point at a time, and slowly let your body feel it, get the idea, and then move on to next. And because Tai Chi are based on the law of nature, there's so much depth in even seemingly simple. I love Pat's idea of the string from the top down. And you know, you will get different layers of depth as you go. And then you can go back again. So the principle is the same that makes Tai Chi so interesting, almost like enjoyable, like, yeah, just put you in great place. So there's a lot of points, 3 points in one session, but nonetheless, it's in recording and you can work on it. And many of you already are pretty good Tai Chi people, and you will find different way to look at it.